Heidi-ho there, my name is African Mangoes, and welcome into the very first episode of Under the Tree. Today we're going to be talking about The Acolyte. It's the most recent Star Wars product to be released by Disney, and has been widely hated by Star Wars fans like myself. I've been a Star Wars fan for as long as I can remember. Until recently, anything that had the Star Wars name on it, I was the first in line to get it, and came out the other side saying it was the best thing ever. Even after all the garbage Star Wars content we've been getting before The Acolyte, there was a part of me that held out hope that it could get better. I never thought there would be a day that I wasn't a Star Wars fan, but here we are. After reluctantly subjecting myself to the first 4 episodes of the show, I can easily say this is the worst Star Wars content I've ever watched. The story that we have seen so far makes little to no sense. This show is poorly acted, and the writing is even worse. The characters are constantly telling the audience and each other things that they already know. Sometimes dialogue will even contradict itself within the same scene, and magic plot devices will slide across the floor to move the show forward. Personally, I think it has yet to even feel like related to Star Wars. To me, it feels more like a cop drama in New York City. One of the biggest contributors to this is the sense of time and space. Everything we have seen so far feels so close together. This makes the scale of the Star Wars galaxy feel so much smaller than it actually is. The show treats systems of planets like boroughs of a city, and the Jedi can wander their way through them whenever they please. Why would you need a local Jedi temple outpost if you can travel to any planet you want to in 20 minutes? Another contributing factor is that the costumes and props just look cheap. The Jedi robes look like they were supplied by fanatics, and the lightsaber hilts just look wrong. The previous lightsaber hilts were sleek, intricately designed, and very unique between each different Jedi. The few that we have actually seen in the show are just cylinders with holes at the top for the blade to come out. The show looking cheap doesn't only apply to the costumes, though. I applaud them for trying to use practical sets, but they seem so small. There are several scenes where you can clearly see where the set ends and the CGI background starts. Even some of the CGI sets feel like they are the same, even though they are on completely different planets. You would think at a $100 million budget, the show would look better than what it does. Even with all these problems, the show could have been something good. For the longest time, I looked down on the prequels due to the quality of the writing and acting. I'm ashamed that it took me seeing some truly bad Star Wars to realize and appreciate the prequel trilogy, because the prequels are true Star Wars. That is something the Acolyte will never be. It goes out of its way to destroy the story of Anakin Skywalker, the story of Star Wars, in order to push their agenda, ideology, and beliefs, rather than even attempting to tell a compelling story. To give some context for all these issues, I will break down some key moments from the episodes we've seen so far. To highlight the first point, we can go through several different places throughout the show, but one of the best examples of the lack of story, writing, and acting comes from episode 2. There is a Jedi assassin, May, on the loose. She's trying to sneak into a local Jedi temple to kill one of the Jedi inside. By this point, the Jedi are aware that there is an assassin who has already killed one Jedi Master. Not only is the assassin able to walk in the front door of this temple, and blatantly walk past one of the Jedi stationed there without any confrontation. If this were a larger temple, this could be a little bit more believable, because there would be a lot more people going in and out of the temple. But this is specified to be a local Jedi temple. That would imply that everyone inside should be able to spot someone out of the ordinary very easily just by looking at them. Not to mention they have the Force and could sense a presence that they have never felt before. Then, after an attempted murder of a Jedi Master who has been meditating for 10 years and is surrounded by a Force shield, she is able to escape through an open skylight because the assassin realizes her plan won't work. After this attack, the local Jedi Temple realized what happened and contacted the main Jedi Temple to let them know. May then decides she needs a poison to kill him. Her apothecary friend just happens to be at the only potion shop in town and is able to make a poison for her. The assassin then proceeds to re-enter the room the Jedi Master is in through the same open skylight she escaped from last time and starts talking to the Jedi Master. Long story short, she convinces him to drink the poison she made and kill himself because of a long-held guilt that he had. These 2 scenes alone just showcase that there are so many nonsensical things that happen in this show. The Jedi Master who killed himself literally could have been easily saved by one of the local Jedi stopping the stranger in their temple or closing an open window. Also, we can't forget to mention the opening crackling fire in the vacuum of space. Now we can move on to the sense of scale that the show has. Episode 1 does a pretty good job of displaying how small the show makes the Star Wars galaxy feel. In this episode, the Jedi are going to question a potential suspect for the murder of a Jedi Master. The suspect, Osha, is just on a random cargo vessel out in the middle of space. Somehow, the Jedi are able to find it and question her. They determine that she doesn't have a good enough alibi and arrest her. They then place her on a prison ship and return to Coruscant. The other prisoners on that ship decide to stage a breakout and take all the escape pods after the ship has gone into hyperspace. The ship is damaged during the escape and is pulled into the gravity of a random planet. In the next scene, we see all the criminals who just escaped the prison ship in the custody of the Jedi, but Osha isn't with them. Now they have to go back to the random planet that the ship crashed on to retrieve Osha. This whole sequence implies that somehow the Jedi were able to leave Coruscant and get the original criminals, come back, and put them in prison, and then return to that same planet before it was even dark out. Another example of this comes in Episode 4, when the Jedi are able to travel from the local Jedi Temple planet back to Coruscant, have a secret Jedi Council meeting, travel to a completely different planet, and find a Wookiee Jedi they were looking for in the same amount of time it took May and the Potion Maker guy to travel to that same planet and find the same Wookiee Jedi. Finally, I will discuss the lore breaking of this show, the most important of which comes from Episode 3 in my opinion. This is a flashback episode that shows the origin of May and Osha and how they got set on their separate paths. This episode focuses on a coven of lesbian witches, and the main conflict of the episode revolves around something called the Ascension. This is a ceremony performed by the witches to indoctrinate new members to join them, the new members being May and Osha when they were 8 years old. Throughout the episode, it is revealed that these witches are using the dark side of the Force, or what they call the Thread. They have been exiled because of this and are hiding on this remote planet for their own safety. The leader of this cult, Mother Anastasia, says to May and Osha, "The galaxy is not friendly to women like us," to try to convince Osha to join the cult. The gigantic break in lore comes when Mother Anastasia is talking to one of the other witches of the coven about Osha's stubbornness in joining their cult. She says that she carried the twins, but Mother Anastasia responds with, "I created them." This implies that some random witch can create life using the dark side of the Force whenever she wants to. This has incredibly large implications on the story of Anakin Skywalker, seeing how he was also created by the Force itself, responding to the dark experimentation of Darth Plagueis and Darth Sidious. If some random witch can create life at will, that means Anakin Skywalker is no longer special. He isn't the chosen one to fulfill the prophecy to destroy the Sith. He's just the next guy to get created by the Force. To wrap things up for today, this show is incredibly bad and somehow continues to get worse after every episode. Initially, after watching it and hearing about it, I was in a state of Star Wars apathy. I didn't even want to watch or enjoy anything related to Star Wars because Disney has been ruining it. After seeing the conversation around Episode 3 and watching it myself, my attitude towards this has changed completely. Now I'm more dedicated than ever to let Disney know what they have done. They have taken the strongest, most culturally relevant IP to ever exist and turned it into a pile of slag in the matter of 12 years. That is why I'm making this video, and will continue to make videos, to be another voice to let Disney know what they have done to this franchise that I have been a fan of for the majority of my life. Just want to give a big thank you to everyone who tuned in to watch the first episode of Under the Tree. My goal is to try and produce one episode every week, continuing with the Acolyte as new episodes come out and more down the line once the show is over. I hope you all enjoyed your time under the tree with me, African Mangoes, and see you next time.